Arthur is destined for greatness, or so says the wizard Merlin, who pulls him from his mother's womb moments after his birth in the middle of nowhere. You see, Arthur's mother was a minor queen, and upon hearing Merlin's prophecy that Arthur would one day become king, she sends him away, immediately wrapping him in a wolf's skin before placing him in the care of a nearby baron and his wife. Years pass, and Arthur grows up into a fine young man without ever knowing his true parentage. Then one day, while hunting in the forest, he comes across a strange sight. A massive stone is blocking the entrance to an underground cave, and etched into its surface is the image of a sword. Suddenly, a voice echoes out of the darkness and tells Arthur to pull the sword free. And lo and behold, it's not just any sword, but Excalibur, the magical blade said to be wielded by the one true king of Britain. Immediately, Arthur knows he must claim this great treasure as his own, and with a mighty tug, he pulls it from its resting place. But unbeknownst to him, Merlin was watching from afar, and when he sees Arthur pull the sword from the stone, he's shocked. See, Merlin's prophecy foretold that Excalibur would be claimed by Uther Pendragon, not some random kid named Arthur. So now he has no choice but to make sure Arthur becomes king, whether he wants the job or not. And luckily, thanks to the influence of Merlin, the people quickly rally behind their new king. But soon he's faced with a terrifying choice. Either marry the beautiful but cold Gwendolyn and unite the northern and southern kingdoms of Britain, or watch as civil war tears the country apart. Naturally, Arthur chooses peace and thus weds Gwendolyn, only to find out she's nothing like he expected. You see, she's actually super hot, and they end up having a blast together. Soon, Arthur even finds himself cheating on his poor, boring wife with one of Gwendolyn's ladies-in-waiting, a woman named Guinevere. Meanwhile, Merlin's old rival, the evil sorcerer Morgan Le Fay, watches Arthur's court from afar and plots his demise, kidnapping both his son and his knights to weaken him. But her plan fails, and she flees back to her island fortress, vowing revenge. To defeat Morgan and any other enemies of the crown, Arthur creates the Order of the Round Table, a fellowship of 12 knights bound together by oaths of chivalry and the promise of adventure. They are the greatest fighters in all of Britain, with the noble Sir Lancelot at their head. It's love at first sight for the two of them, and their relationship quickly blossoms into something passionate and pure, despite the fact they're both married to other people. But alas, their romance can never truly be, and they spend most of their time together sneaking around and trying to hide their affair from everyone. Meanwhile, Mordred, Arthur's illegitimate son, also pines for Guinevere, which puts him in a rather awkward position since she's not only his stepmother but also his father's mistress. Now, he could let his jealousy die down, but he doesn't. Instead, he convinces himself that his father doesn't deserve the throne and begins plotting to take it for himself. Then one day, he has his chance. While Arthur is away on a pilgrimage to recover the Holy Grail, Mordred takes the throne, even though he isn't the rightful heir. However, he didn't count on the return of Sir Lancelot, who immediately arrests him for treason and brings him before Arthur. But instead of punishing his son, Arthur shows him nothing but kindness and compassion. He forgives him, takes him on a hunting trip, and then lets him join the Round Table as a knight. Talk about a power move. And while Arthur may be a forgiving man, the same cannot be said of Guinevere. After all, it was her that Mordred had meant to replace. Now, she's got a bone to pick with him. So while Arthur is away again, this time fighting a rebellion in the north, she uses her influence over the court to have Mordred put on trial for sleeping with one of her ladies-in-waiting. The Knights of the Round Table are there to protect him, but even they're not enough to save him from Guinevere's wrath. She demands he be exiled from Britain forever, and that's exactly what happens. Now, normally this would be the end of it, but Mordred is not the kind of guy that takes rejection lying down. In fact, he wastes no time gathering an army in northern France, and then he leads them south towards Britain, burning villages and killing anyone loyal to Arthur along the way. When Sir Lancelot hears this, he immediately sets out to stop him, but he and his knights are utterly defeated. And as a last-ditch effort to save Britain, Guinevere calls on the sorceress Morgan Le Fay for help. She obliges, but only because she has her own score to settle with Arthur. And so she casts a spell that makes Sir Lancelot fall into a deep slumber. Then she leads Mordred's forces to the gates of Camelot itself. At this point, Arthur has two choices. Either he and his knights fight to the death against Mordred and his army, or they let themselves be taken prisoner and hope for the best. Obviously, Arthur chooses the former, and as the two armies clash in the fields outside of town, it becomes clear that the day will be won by whoever lands the first fatal blow. And who should land that blow but Mordred himself? He runs straight for Arthur, and the two engage in a fierce one-on-one battle. In the end, though, Arthur prevails, and Mordred is slain. However, he wasn't wrong when he said, "My father is the luckiest man in the world," because during the battle, he managed to wound Arthur mortally. And now that his greatest enemy is dead, Arthur is free to go to Avalon, where he can finally be healed. So that's what he does. But sadly, the legend doesn't say whether or not he ever came back. Some say he did. Others say he didn't. But the truth is, we'll never know. So why is this such a compelling tale? Why do we keep coming back to stories like these? For me, it's all about the characters and how they deal with their problems. Arthur is destined to become king, but he doesn't know it. And when he learns the truth, he has to decide whether or not to accept his fate. Even though he's destined to fail, Arthur tries his best to do what he thinks is right, even if it means leaving his friends behind or going against the wishes of his family. That's why we admire him so much. Despite his flaws, he's a good person who always tries to do the right thing, even if it costs him everything. And that's why we keep coming back to these stories. We want to believe that someone like Arthur can exist, even if it's just in fiction. He reminds us that no matter how bad things get, we should never give up hope. There's always light at the end of the tunnel, even if it's just a little bit. If you haven't already, subscribe so you don't miss any updates. Until next time, goodbye.